From our studios in Scottsdale, Arizona, this is Retirement News Online. When it comes to saving money, people tend to fall into two camps, non-planners and planners. Now, non-planners typically save when they can, perhaps putting a small amount into a workplace retirement plan, hoping that everything will eventually work out in the end. Planners generally know what they're saving for, how much they need to put away, and how long it will take them to reach their goals. Joining me is Joel Broersma with Pathway Financial Design in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hey, Joel. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, Scott.
Would you, so talking about how we opened up this conversation, that a lot of people have this idea that they're sort of planning, but they really just have this big drawer full of statements.
Yep.
And they're kind of hoping. When you run into that, which is probably often, how do you start?
Yep, no, it's a good question. So everybody's on some kind of a plan, right? Whether they know it or not. So no plan is still a plan. Choosing not to plan is a plan. But a drawer full of statements is exactly that. It's a drawer full of statements. You might save in a 401k, save in your simple IRA, whatever it might be, but that's all that is. Do you really know how much you need when you're at whatever age you want to retire at, 65, 62, 67? Do you really know how long it's going to last? Do you know what's going to happen to your family if you pass away? What if tragedy strikes, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, planning is kind of integral to hitting whatever it is you're trying to hit.
Yeah, and then talking about how typically people look at like retirement saving, for example.
Yep.
It's really all about accumulation.
Yep.
Which is fine.
Yep.
We need to accumulate and grow the portfolio. The other part though is probably the most important, which is distribution, because people are going to find themselves in retirement for 20, 30, sometimes 40 years or more,
That's
which
right.
requires another level of skill. Wouldn't you
Yep.
agree?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. So when it comes to withdrawals, you got to be careful on taking money out too quick, right? Sequence of withdrawals, sequence of returns. If the market goes through a downturn of whatever, 10, 20, 30%, and you're taking a big chunk out, that can change everything. Could ruin the longevity of your plan for sure. So yeah, taking all of those things into equation, and that's part of the plan. Again, it kind of points back to planning of not just set it and forget it, but set it and update it and maintain it and make sure you are up to speed on where you need to be.
Yeah, so talking about like a common distribution idea, which is the 4% rule, which
Yep.
was built in the 90s, kind
Yep.
of. Does that make sense today
Yep.
for you? Do you use it? In
I
any
would
way?
say as a general rule, yes, that's a fine thing to think about. If you have $1 million saved and a 4% rule is $40,000, so can you live on that? Then it comes back to the spending plan, budget, and what's going to happen with inflation moving forward. But it kind of goes back to that sequence of returns we talked about in the last time was, what if your million becomes 800 and now your 4% is only 32,000? Can you live on that? Are you okay with that? Do you have different maybe buckets of money for different strategies based on whatever you're trying to do? And then you're talking taxes, and you might even be talking estate planning at the end of the day for what that might look like. But again, it all comes back to planning. So.
Yeah, and for sequence of returns risk, just so people understand, so that's the concept of like two people, for example, same assets, same investments,
Yep.
start taking income at
Yep.
different times, and for the person, say who has $1 million in the same investments as the other person, if they run into taking income in a down market in the first 2 or 3 years, that can have a really, really horrible effect on their ability to not run out of money. The other person doesn't have that problem. They end up maybe taking income at the start of a bull market, and they actually have more money left over than when they started. So
That's right.
How do you take timing out of the equation?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Planning. I'm going to come back to planning and think about some of the larger withdrawals. We all need money monthly. Cell phone bills, grocery. Hopefully you don't have a house payment anymore. Maybe there's a rent payment, right? If we do our planning right, we don't have that either. So general expenses, gas for the car, the insurances, that kind of stuff. That's going to happen every single month. Maybe Social Security covers it, maybe it doesn't. Maybe a pension covers it, maybe you don't have a pension. The bigger items, think car replacement, think fixing the kitchen, think second home, think vacations, gifts, whether that's Christmas gifts or big travel stuff with the kids, whatever it might be. Those things you can time. And it goes back to the very first question you asked me. It all points back to planning. Like if you have somebody in your life that can coordinate everything, investments, insurance, taxes, estate planning, some trusted source that you go to be like, hey, here's what's going on in the market. Should I do something different or shouldn't I? Isn't that kind of a nice thing to have? Doesn't that make you feel a little more comfortable to know you've got somebody in your corner that can help you with everything?
Yeah. So how do you know if you've got the right advisor? They have to be talking about all that stuff, don't
Fun
they?
question. So when you think about the word or words phrase financial planner, is the guy selling insurance at State Farm a financial planner? Some people would say yes. It depends on the client probably. But to us or to me, it is somebody who has access to everything. So It's a double-edged sword. I've said for a long time, your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. And our greatest strength is we have access to everything. The greatest weakness is figuring out how all those things can go together and staying up to speed on that as laws change, like they just did. So now we're spending time getting back up to speed on new tax law moving forward for this year and beyond. But having somebody that knows, that has that expertise or is a professional in all those areas is really key.
My guest is Joel Broersma in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Thank you for watching Retirement News Online.